Kia ora. Hello and welcome to Liberty Now On Air, the show for discerning minds and common sense. We seek the truth and can think for ourselves. I'm your host, John Verd. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'll be here looking at the headlines, asking questions, and talking to people who are taking action every Saturday at 10 p.m. Today, we're going to have a discussion about immune health. Goodness knows that we could use some information about that in light of the coronavirus pandemic and other things going on in the world. And so we're going to talk about ways you can naturally boost your immune system through nutrition with a local nutritionist that I know through the fitness industry right here in New Zealand. Her name is Elle Johnson Chandler, and I'd like to welcome her to the show. Ellie, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, John. Good to see you again.
You as well. It's been hours.
I know. You must do this more often.
I really wanted to have a chat with you. I want to warn people about, things I see that are of concern geopolitically, but I also want to talk about solutions and positive things. And, being in the health and fitness industry, I've always been concerned about, health and nutrition. And you, being a nutritionist, would be a really good one to talk to about that. Wherever you stand on, what COVID is or how severe it is, we can all benefit from improved immune systems, right?
Oh, heck yes. That's my go-to. It's just eating well. Like, it's that old adage, you are what you eat.
Yeah,
so if
absolutely.
You eat good,
right? I mean, we are nothing more than what we consume and put into our bodies. I mean,
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's got to be, apart from exercise, the number one factor in determining your immunological response to things in the environment, right? Ellie, tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get involved in nutrition in the first place?
Well, funnily enough, I started out as a chef. I actually spent good part of 20 years wandering around the world being a little gypsy chef and working in many different countries and cooking my way around. And then when I got to my early 30s, I think I was just 30, and I realized I didn't have the stamina to keep up with a fast-paced kitchen anymore. But I didn't want to lose all the knowledge that I'd gained working with food, because I love food. Food's an obsession. I wholeheartedly believe that. And so I looked into it, and I realized that if I went and studied nutrition, I had a lot of the information with me already, just from being around food for so many years. You kind of get an innate knowledge.
Right.
And this was a way that I could use it in a more scholarly manner, you could say. And without having to completely ditch my passion of eating delicious things.
That is awesome. What does nutrition mean to you?
Nutrition means understanding the relationship between what we put into our bodies and what we can expect out of it in return. So, I mean, technically, you can get nutrition from any food source. Whether it's going to be good nutrition or not is a whole different kettle of fish. Because, like, literally, you can survive on McDonald's or, junk food. You're just not going to have a good time doing it.
Right.
So that kind of stuff in, then you're going to expect those results.
Did you see the movie Super Size Me?
Yes, that guy's amazing. Like, it perfectly illustrates what I'm talking about. I mean, you can live 40 or 50 years on terrible food, but it's going to be a terrible time.
Right. Well, the body is an amazing, resilient thing, isn't it? I mean, it can put up with all kinds of insults that we do, physically and nutritionally. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy.
Yeah, it's one of the big things about humankind is our ability to adapt and to survive. And, wherever you put us, we make it work.
Right.
Whatever you do to us, we make it work. But, if you're going to do something, you may as well do the best thing, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think it's better to thrive than just survive.
Bingo.
Yeah. So beyond just, eating for, just pleasure, for the enjoyment of food, and also for the fact that it, fuels our day, some foods better than others. What does it mean for our immune system?
It's everything. In my in my opinion, food is, well, obviously the basis of everything, but when it comes to things like immune system, mental health, all these things, it comes back down to your gut. And if you have a really healthy microbiome, which is all the different bacteria that lives in your gut and also all throughout your digestive system, that will provide for a really, really good basis for a strong immune system. It will provide for a really good, strong insulin response. So you're not going to be so susceptible to like diabetes, those kind of things.
Right.
Mineral metabolism. So your DECA, your DCA,
What is that? DKA? What is that?
DEKA. It's your vitamins D, E, K, and A.
Oh yes, of course. It's been a while since I've been in school. Yes. Yeah. Now I remember.
So those ones, they rely on a really good digestive system to be able to absorb properly.
Right.
Because they are water soluble. A lot of the other ones you can kind of, to be fair, all minerals and vitamins, you need to have a good digestive system to be able to get the most out of. Like an unhealthy gut will not absorb the best from your food.
So that helps when it comes, that helps the biome, the healthy, the good bacteria in your gut, and then that in turn helps it do what for the immune system? Well,
for example, K was the one I'm specifically thinking of. Vitamin K is actually produced by bacteria in your lower intestine. And so if you don't have a really healthy, like a healthy microbiome, a healthy bacterial system in your gut contains anywhere from, I think it was 50 billion to 3 trillion different types of bacteria.
In fact, you just reminded me, I'm reading a fascinating book right now. I've just only started it, called Virus Mania. We'll talk about that another time, but they were talking about all the variety of microbiota in the gut, and the not just the variety, but the quantity. Apparently throughout the whole body, there's up to 1 kilogram of microorganisms in every person. Is that right?
Funnily enough, on a cellular count, there is more bacteria cells in you than there are human cells. You're more bacteria than you are human.
That is amazing.
And so when you see things like a Dettol packet that says kills 99.9% of bacteria, if that was true, we'd be in a lot of trouble. We are obligated to coexist with bacteria. And so obviously there are some pathogenic bacteria that not so great. You want to try and avoid those guys. Right. But the majority of bacteria is really, really beneficial to everything about us, man. There's so many different types. And so I get really excited about bacteria, and that comes back to eating a wide range of foods that can feed all these different bacteria. Because like the best way I've had it described to me is think about the Amazon rainforest compared to a well-manicured lawn.
Right.
To be the Amazon rainforest.
Right.
Where there's many different types of animals and plants and bacteria going on.
Right.
Rather than just a monoculture. Because there's a really good study, actually. If you're really interested in this, I would recommend reading the Puerto Rico study. And it's all about the correlation between the microbiota in the human body and our response to, our obesity and health-related diseases. So what they did was they followed a bunch of babies from birth till 20 years. And I'm talking about thousands and thousands of participants.
Yep.
And they compared things like a natural birth to a C-section. They compared fed to bottle fed. And most importantly, they compared antibiotic use in children. Now, they discovered a linear correlation between the use of antibiotics in children and obesity. So the more antibiotics you have, the more likely you are to have obesity, which in turn leads to heart disease and diabetes and all the other awful things that turn up with it. So the reasons behind this is because, as I said, it's the difference between the Amazon rainforest and a well-manicured lawn. When you take an antibiotic, you don't just kill the bacteria you're trying to kill, you tend to kill everything.
Right.
That's to get a dodgy stomach after an antibiotic because it wipes out your microbiome. So when you clear out the microbiome in your stomach, the ones that come back fastest and strongest tend to be the ones that want sugars and fats. Hence, that'll make you want sugars and fats. So the more antibiotics, this is why antibiotics are they're a golden sword. Like, we were gifted this amazing, amazing tool, and we've just abused it and given it to farm animals. But it breaks my heart, because now we're going to lose the ability to use this golden tool because we've abused it so much.
Right. We're running out of different varieties, right? Because
rapidly, far more rapidly than people realize. Right. And it's because of things like obviously it's not good to have nine out of your 10 days of antibiotics and then leave the 10th day, because what you're doing is those bacteria.
It's like sort of selective breeding, right? You're allowing the hardiest ones that weren't quite dead yet, and now they're going to run rampant.
Yeah, and they've got it in their blueprint how to survive. Now, if you take that and extrapolate it to an enormous scale of global farming, the way we industrialized farming, and we pack all these animals in together really, really close. Right. And of course, if you have 1,000 chickens living right next to each other, they're going to get sick. If one gets a bacteria, it's going to spread like wildfire. So to prevent this, they mix antibiotics, low-level antibiotics throughout the food. Like 70% of antibiotics is given to farm animals.
If you're just tuning in, this is John Verd on Liberty Now on air on 96.9 Plains FM in Christchurch. Please be sure to subscribe on iTunes at Liberty Now on air. You can also get the links, files, and show notes for this episode at libertynow.com.
%70 of antibiotics produced in the world is given to farm animals,
which we consume.
Which we then consume, meaning we're continuously getting low levels of antibiotics.
Wow.
Which teaches our bacteria how to survive those types of bacteria of illness.
So what I'm extrapolating, or from what you're saying here, is one, that's an even stronger reason for eating organic, healthy, and trying to avoid antibiotic fed meats, I suppose, and also avoiding GMO crops, foods, plants that could have, although you may not get sick eating them, it's conceivable.
They're teaching your cells certain things that are not the best to know. So one of the best things one of my tutors ever told me, it's one of my favorites, it's basic nutrition. Eat more plants more often, don't eat processed food.
Boom.
That's it.
that's yeah. I mean, how often have we heard this in different ways, and how often do people really follow it? But I think maybe it's a question of motivation. When people start to hear these facts and information, it brings it, gives it some more immediacy, right? The fact that we're running out of antibiotics that are useful for us. And I guess that makes it all the more important to eat healthy and provide a steady, healthy, stable gut biome. So to reduce the need for antibiotics in the first place, right? Because
the
may not be an option for much longer.
Best way to be healthy is to feed yourself good food. Like, comes back to you are what you eat. If you're going to eat organic or at least fresh, locally sourced, in my opinion, the best food is the food you grow yourself.
Right.
Because you know exactly what it is. You don't have to pay for it. You get the joy of growing things, which I love.
Yes. But
I think it's and it also produces self-sufficiency. If you know that you can secure your own food supply, that's huge. Like, both my parents were massive gardeners growing up, and they both have both them and my step parents, they have their own little organic farms. So one's up in Nelson and one's over here in Teddington. But yeah, I've always been really lucky. I was raised understanding how to grow food, why it's important, where food comes from. Like, I eat meat, but I try and keep it down to maybe 2 to 3 servings of red meat a week. Like, yep. And like, I'd love to eat more fish, but as we know, the oceans are in a terrible state as well, blah, 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 blah. Right. But yeah, it's all about understanding where your food is coming from. Right. And like, in New Zealand, we're pretty lucky because we do, even from the supermarkets, the standard's not terrible. Like, I hate to bring America into it, but
no, I absolutely agree with you. In fact, one of the things I noticed is, I've always eaten pretty healthy, and I've never made a habit of eating lots of junk food. I'm trying to get some exercise in there, drinking lots of water, but I still, despite that, I had some aches and pains, things that are feeling like early onset arthritis and maybe some carpal tunnel. And part of this is, my own fault from picking up dumbbells all day long, handing them to clients for them, and it takes a toll on the body. And some of those pains in the joints, I just couldn't shake. And it was just always kind of a low level pain. And it's amazing what you can learn to live with, you just sort of get used to it. But I noticed
that's what we're good at.
Yeah. But after moving to New Zealand, within a few months, especially the pains and aches in my elbows and forearms just kind of went away. And I think
what I find really funny
is cleaner here.
You know how people always go, oh, I'm going to go gluten-free because, I feel a bit of funniness around gluten. And as soon as they do, they say, oh, I feel amazing. It's changed my life. It's wonderful. Everyone should do it. Obviously, there are people that definitely need to cut out gluten from their diet. Yep. Obviously, they exist. Celiac disease is very, very real.
Yep.
But I personally believe a lot of people that have gluten sensitivities are actually more sensitive to the preservatives and to the additions that you get in highly processed food that contains gluten.
Right.
So that when they cut out all the gluten, they're actually cutting out all the processed food, and then they're going to feel great.
Right.
So really, it's not the gluten specifically that's the problem. It's the additives that you get, the preservatives and the sulfides and all the other rubbish that goes into processed food.
Well, I've also been hearing that gluten, in normal quantities is not so bad, but it's the excessive consumption of it. And here I was listening to a TED Talk, and this I'll have to look up the name. I think he was a nutritionist or a doctor, and he was talking about how gluten as a substance tends to shut off the satiety mechanism in the gut. So when it's how you can eat tons and tons of pasta or potatoes and not necessarily feel very full. You can eat beyond what your body really should be. Yeah. And knowing this, food scientists have begun adding gluten to foods that didn't always contain gluten.
Yeah.
And when I said potatoes, I don't think potatoes are naturally contained. No, however,
I know where you're going.
Foods, but they've started adding gluten to potato chips that never had it before.
Yeah.
So that you'll eat more.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Potato chips are a good example. Like, a lot of flavorings contain gluten now. For that reason, you're correct with that. That it affects the now there's leptin and ghrelin. One tells you you're hungry, the other one tells you you're full.
Right.
I should have probably researched to remember which one's which. But leptin and ghrelin are the two hormones, and gluten directly affects that. So the one that tells you you're full gets muted.
Right.
And it racks up the other one. But it reminds at the end of the day, you're eating your own food and you know where it comes from, and if it doesn't have an advert, it's generally going to be better for you.
Right. Well, and I've been thinking about this too. Like, I've talked previously about aquaponics and, gardening, locally sourced food. And absolutely, I fully encourage that. And lots of people can, even with just a little bit of a plot.
You don't need much space.
Outside space. There's a family in California that had a very small backyard, and they dug up all the concrete. They converted it into garden, and they started doing vertical grow, and they started producing, and it was just a small average size backyard, they grew enough food to not only be able to supply themselves year round, but sell it to market and support themselves financially.
Nice.
It was
Yeah,
awesome.
it's funny. Funny you should mention vertical grow. My partner's just playing around with a little hobby at the home. He's set up out the back, like he works in hospitality as well. So we get those big 4-liter margarine containers and sour
Yep.
cream containers. And what he's done is attached them to a whole bunch of springy hooks and hung them from the fence. So we've got like these 4-liter. So we're going to set up like a little, because you can grow beans, anything that climbs up against the fence. And then of course you've got all your herbs, all that kind of stuff. And that's literally no ground space at all. That's all up against the fence.
Yeah, so in fact, I'd like to do another podcast to describe and talk about that alone, especially for people living in the city that maybe they don't even have a yard. There's probably at least some produce they could grow inside even a small apartment.
Oh, definitely.
If you're clever.
Definitely. Like it's something I'm really passionate about, because I was raised with always having a house garden. Like always, everywhere we lived, we had a garden.
Yeah.
Just what we did. And at the moment I'm working with Odyssey House, and we're putting together a garden to plate kind of cookbook. So
oh yes,
I don't know if you've seen like the tiny gardens that you get from New World. So you go shopping there and you get a little miniature seedling, or like a tiny little pot with a seed in it, and take it home. And it's meant to be for kids, but a plant's a plant.
Absolutely. It's still food.
Exactly. And so what they did, it was wonderful to see. What they did was they got all of the seeds and plants that they could from New World, took them back for the residents to give them an opportunity to learn how to garden. And then that's where I come in and teach them what to do with this project, because they grew amazingly beautiful gardens. I'll have to show you the photos one day.
If you're just tuning in, this is John Verd on Liberty Now On Air, a weekly broadcast / podcast on 96.9 Plains FM. You can also subscribe to the podcast in iTunes at Liberty Now On Air. And to get the links, files, and show notes for this episode, head over to libertynow.com. And that was all the time we had with Ellie for today. But I would like to finish off with some foods that can help boost the immune system. I did a little bit of research online for you, and I'd like to list off 15 foods that can boost the immune system, starting with citrus fruits, because obviously they contain vitamin C. Popular citrus fruits include grapefruits, oranges, clementines, tangerines, lemons, and limes. The recommended dosage per day would be 75 milligrams for women, or 90 milligrams for men would be the optimum. Another superfood would be red bell peppers, which also are high in beta carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A. Also helps to keep the eyes and skin healthy. Broccoli, some of us like it, some of us don't. It took me probably about a long time. It wasn't until my 20s before I could actually eat broccoli, but it is a superfood, and I really like it now. And the key to keeping the power of broccoli intact is to cook it as little as possible. Some say not at all, but steaming can be a good way. Just don't overcook it so you don't lose all those great nutrients in there. Another good one is garlic, found in all kinds of food all over the world, and seems to have a heavy concentration of sulfur-containing compounds, such as allicin. Number 5 would be ginger. It's a great ingredient to cook with, and it can also decrease chronic pain. Might even possess some cholesterol-lowering properties. Spinach is not just good because of the vitamin C, also packed with numerous antioxidants, and can increase infection-fighting ability in your immune system. Number 7 is yogurt. Everybody, I think, knows that it has lots of probiotics, especially yogurts that contain acidophilus. Can also be a great source of vitamin D if you can select brands that are fortified with the vitamin D. Almonds, number 8. Almonds are really good, contain vitamin E. Adults only need about 15 milligrams of vitamin E each day, and a half cup serving of almonds, which is about 46 whole shelled almonds, provides about 100% of the daily recommended dosage or amount. Number 9, sunflower seeds also contain phosphorus and magnesium and vitamins B6 and E. Sunflower seeds are also very high in selenium. Just 1 ounce contains nearly half the selenium that the average adult needs daily. So try to include some of that. Another one that I've been taking a lot of lately, or adding into my diet, is turmeric. It has many anti-inflammatory properties. It's an ingredient in many curries, also delicious, but it can also help to treat osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. And research has shown that high concentrations of curcumin, which gives turmeric its distinctive color, can also decrease exercise-induced muscle damage. Also has promise as an immune booster based on some findings from animal studies. Number 11, green tea, high in antioxidants. Green and black teas are packed with flavonoids, which are a type of antioxidant, and green tea is especially good in that. And it contains EGCG, which is another powerful antioxidant. Number 12, papaya, also delicious, loaded with vitamin C. And you can find double the daily recommended amount of vitamin C in a single medium-sized fruit. Papayas also have decent amounts of potassium, magnesium, and folate, which are beneficial to your overall health. Kiwis, which we all love and find plentiful here in New Zealand as well. Like papayas, they're full of essential nutrients, including folate, potassium, vitamin K, and vitamin C. Also helps the white blood cells to fight infection, and also keeps the rest of the body functioning properly. Number 14, poultry. Chicken, of course, has vitamin B6, and about 3 ounces of light turkey or chicken contains nearly 1/3 of your daily recommended amount of B6. And number 15, shellfish. It's not something that necessarily jumps immediately to mind, but they can contain zinc. Other varieties of shellfish, that besides oysters, I think most of us know, other varieties might include crab, lobster, and mussels. So I hope these will give you some good ideas on ways to boost your immune system naturally. And by the way, if you have any questions for me, or if you'd like to get any questions to Ellie, specific nutrition questions, I would be more than happy to post those in a future episode. You can email me at john@libertynow.com. And you can also reach me and get more information at libertynow.com. Until next time, be good and keep asking questions.